Good afternoon, sir. Sir, I'm sorry. We are really sorry. There was a network issue at our end. So we were just working on that.
Where are others?
Speaker. Speaker?
Other students are not there?
There are two of us right now. Actually, 2, 3 have gone to a conference. There's a conference, IAAP conference, and like 2, 3 more are supposed to come. I think they'll be here in some time.
Okay, let's start our job and see.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Right. ऐसे वो करेगा.
Let's sit straight.
Yes.
And first 15 minutes, we practice mindfulness of breathing. Calm down the mind. Please keep your camera on. Let us now shift our attention to the body in a systematic manner, as we did in the last class. Shift the attention to the head, the whole of the head where hair are growing, and see if there is any bodily sensation there, and also what is its characteristic of impermanence. You should be able to see, and also its unsatisfactoriness because of the impermanence. And the third insight is it is a natural phenomenon. It's not me or mine. So anywhere in the head, if you find anything, any experience, then having felt something in the head, can come down to the face, complete face, from one ear to the another, the nose, the eyes, eyebrows, chin, the cheeks, the bottom portion of the throat, neck, neck. So anywhere in this place, within this area, if you feel anything, feel it, notice its characteristic of change, its natural occurrence, and then move ahead to the other point. Having seen the face and from one ear to the other ear, you can see the back of the head. If it is a short question, you can speak. Any question about difficulty in feeling the bodily sensation, you can ask me. And stand the side of the head. You can move down to the neck, also the whole of the neck. Is there anybody who's not able to feel anything? Please let me know, because then we'll continue with the breaths. You can just raise your hand. Are you all able to feel something in the body? Please raise your hand so that I know. Okay, good. So carry on then. And you know what we are trying to feel. What does it mean? What is happening in the body? It's not any specific kind of feeling we are looking for, or a specific bodily effect. It could be anything. Pressure, lightness, heaviness, pain, tingling, heat, movement, trembling, anything. Anything which is actually happening and which will normally incite some reaction from you. And we are training the mind so as not to react. Irrespective of the nature of bodily sensation and the feeling associated with it, we are not reacting. So there's a training we are doing. So that in our life and situations happen when different kinds of feelings arise, we don't react. And thus we preclude the possibility of suffering caused by reaction. Very simple, straightforward uh, understanding of what we are doing. Having seen the neck area, you can now go to the right shoulder and systematically move from the right shoulder down through the upper arm, the lower arm, up to the fingertips of the right hand. So avoid excessive speaking. I'm just giving you the overall instruction so you can do that. Slowly you can feel whatever you feel, you stay for a few seconds. Notice its changeful nature and whether it is pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Doing stand the right hand, you can do same thing with the left hand, starting from the shoulder, go down to the upper arm up to the elbow, then from there up lower arm up to wrist, and then the hand and the finger up to the fingertips. And then move to the trunk, the front side of the body, from the neck downwards, chest, down to the belly. Move to the front side, you can do the back side of the body, the upper back, the lower back, up to the bottom area. You can scan the whole body. You can now go to the right leg, starting from the hip joint, the bottom, which is touching the chair, then thigh area, whole of the right leg, starting from the hip joint, the thighs up to the knees, then the lower leg, and the foot right up to the toes, all the toes of the feet. So sequentially, slowly we move and back and feel whatever bodily sensations become manifest. Feel them in a non-reactive manner, which means just be aware of them and their changing nature and move ahead. The awareness of changing nature should be there. It's not that we infer it from our theoretical understanding. We actually feel the change in the bodily sensation as well as the associated feeling. You can scan the right leg and do same thing for the left, starting from the hip joint, the bottom touching the chair, thighs, the upper leg up to the knee, then from the left knee till the ankle, lower leg, the left foot up to the toes, so that the whole body is scanned once. Very patiently, waiting everywhere for a few seconds, noticing the experience, distinguishing between the bodily sensation and the associated feeling. Good. You can open your eyes now and relax and open your eyes. So, were you able to feel the bodily sensations?
Sir.
Yes, please speak up.
Um, yes, sir. For me, feeling the bodily sensations was easier than it is to concentrate on my breath while we do this meditation exercises. And today, like I had thoughts coming in my mind, coming and going, um, thoughts, but uh, along with that, I could feel the bodily sensations, although thoughts were there. And when we started with the head, so because of the rubber band, there's a pull in the hair that one experiences towards the backside. That is something that I could feel, and a tingling sensation in the lower half of my head. Then so there were certain sensations uh, that I could see, like there was a little bit of pain here, which I was very prompted to sort of just do like this. But then as we move to arms and all, then I noticed that was gone, but that tingling sensation in my head was still there. It was probably there the entire time. So there were some sensations that I could see that they were sort of gone as we had moved um, sequentially in other parts of the body. Some remained, and then towards the end, like with the hands I could feel like the lower end was touching the table, so it was feeling that smooth kind of thing. But on the upper palms I could feel a bit chilly and cold, and like when we opened our eyes and we resumed it, they were feeling a bit sort of heavy. And at times when you have that feeling that something very heavy was put on your like hand, then you cannot move it. It was feeling like that, and like the bodily sensations as well. But it was easier for me to do this than to concentrate on the breath that I.
Yes. Next.
So for me, I guess when I close my eyes and you ask me to concentrate on and feel sensations in the head, like when I closed my eyes, it something felt like my head turned like this, and it like became very calm kind of. And then after that there was some sensations here, and I can still feel them, like here prominently here. And then
Yes. Yeah.
yes sir.
Face.
No sir. Like the prominent thing was like in this space, like I'm still able to
The
feel
face,
some.
you couldn't feel anything.
No, sir. Like I didn't notice it at that time because like these sensations were very prominent. And here, also. And there was one prominent sensation here between like the eye kind of a thing. And yeah, I was also able to feel the pulse somehow. Like there was some like a heartbeat, some dub dub dub, some kind of a thing which was rhythmic. So I was able to.
Where, which part of the body?
Sir, here.
So it's a
Like
throbbing,
I
some kind of
not
throbbing happening, isn't it?
tracking, but I could feel like there is some rhythmic beat which is going on.
Okay. And rest of the body? About the
Like
rest of the body,
because
how
I
was it?
didn't know
Legs.
like that much any.
You couldn't feel anything in the legs and backside of the body.
I didn't notice matlab, probably.
Or you started enjoying this thrilling about throbbing was very enjoyable.
Yes, a kind of.
Yeah, so that's the training, you know. So you must notice, see, I'm enjoying it, and it's after all impermanent. It'll go, and
And
that this
you
is.
know, in ears also there is a kind of like static noise which comes. Like even if there is noises, but there is some static noise which is there.
Hmm. Okay. Is it there even now?
Oh, sorry.
Yes. Anybody else? Other people also should say some things. I want to
I
make sure that you are doing what you ought to be doing and not imagining things. Because
I think
many times we can just imagine things. Because your neighbor has said something, yeah, next time you sit, you also begin to imagine same thing is happening. You know, then it's a game being played. But if you actually observe what is happening and see the tendency of the mind to like it, dislike it, and understand its impermanence, then training of the mind is happening. You know, it's at a micro level you're training the mind. Yes, can you speak out something?
Yes, sir. I think when I was focusing on the head region, I still can feel something, and I feel I have a little headache or heaviness that I feel in the head region. And for the rest of the body, whenever, for example, if I'm focusing on the hand, it felt as if the blood was flowing through this region, and you can feel it, and it became really heavy.
And the same thing for left hand also?
Yes, I mean, in whichever part I'm focusing, that part there was some sensation there. I mean, I don't know how to explain it, but it felt really heavy and it felt as if the blood is flowing through that region.
So you felt some movement, is it?
Yes, sir.
It was true of all of the whole of the body.
Not for the whole time, but like in bits and pieces.
Okay. Yes, now you said, please.
So I think I relate to what Diksha shared that for me also it was easy to notice the bodily sensations rather than focusing on the breath. And I was able to notice a lot of sensations like starting from the head, I could feel tingling sensations in some part of my hair. Then I could also feel as if one of my eye was getting watery. So I could experience that. There was also a sort of vibrating sensation in my chin, which sort of lasted for a few seconds. Uh, then I could also experience a little pain in my back and my shoulder. And also, like when I was focusing on the lower part of the body, it happened that there was some sensation that would arise in the upper part, and my attention would again shift to the upper part of the body.
And then who if one more person was present?
She's not here right now. She might have gone to the washroom. She's a bit ill, so
Okay.
one more thing, like this also happened when initially we had started meditating in the initial classes. So when I keep my hands like this and when I breathe, I'm able to feel like I'm holding a balloon in my hand, and when you inflate a balloon, so you feel this kind of pressure that your hand sort of expand a bit, and then when you deflate it in your hand, it feels like this. So in the initial 1 or 2 sessions, I used to feel like that in my hands, not anywhere else, but and then it didn't happen. But today again, I could feel it in my hands when I was concentrating that a balloon.
The balloon is your imagination. What is actually happening is the hand is experiencing expansion, contraction, expansion. And because of our vivid imagination, you can imagine things
It
like,
feels like I could relate that it feels similar to that, but like
yeah.
not like there's a balloon.
Right. So you systematically, if you do it at home also, then slowly and slowly you'll get used to the different kinds of bodily feelings. And the key thing is to see how the mind gets pulled by them or pushed out by them. So there's a key training. Sometimes we like something and then we hold on, we stay there only, forget about anything else because it's so and then the when you're scanning the body, attention goes back and forth. So we try to see that mind is not in control. So we try to pause and then move it further so that the control over the mind remains. And that is basically because our samadhi is not strong. We have not practiced anapana enough so that the mind obeys my instructions and does what I ask it to do. So the observation of the breath, which we do in the beginning, is for that purpose, so that the mind becomes collected and then it becomes pliable. When we ask it to go from here to here, it goes here and goes down. Even if something happens there, there is a knowledge of it, but it still doesn't refuse to go down. Okay, so that's the kind of practice we do so as to train the mind to obey us and not to react to whatever is experienced. This is just a simulation of what happens in our day-to-day life. Isn't it? We go to a shop to buy something and end up buying something else. So that's exactly same thing. Something else is looking some other feeling somewhere is very attractive and the mind goes there, or it is very painful and the mind goes there, and we're not able to stick to what we had decided we will be doing. So you can see the whole process is actually a kind of mini simulation of our day-to-day life and done at the micro level. We are not creating any magic and creating shopping mall here for you, but the experience is of a similar nature. And you can easily see that how the practice is related to our day-to-day life. Okay. So we'll then carry on with our next today. So we'll discuss the dependent origination today. In a very, as part of it, we have already discussed without getting into too much detail. So we'll be able to understand it in its completeness as it is spelled out by the Buddha. It actually is an elaboration of the second and third noble truth. Well, there's the mechanism of how the dukkha arises, dependent on what it arises, and how we can end it. So this is something which I think we have already discussed. You remember? This is the general principle, general formulation. When this exists, that is. So it means basically a relationship between something, a necessary condition, and the consequence of that. So, and as an example of it, we have discussed when craving is, suffering is. So if craving is not there, suffering will not be there. When craving is not there, suffering is not there. So these are the kind of very simple statements, but they have a clear indication of what exactly should be done to remove suffering. So if the craving ceases, suffering will also cease. And as long as craving is there, suffering will be there. That's the basic second and third noble truth. And now the details of the example of given. So this is the complete formulation. Okay, we generally chant it quite frequently. Avidya Pachaya Sankhara. So from avidya means avidya, conditions the arising of sankhara. From ignorance as a requisite condition come volitional formations. And sankhara pachya vijnanam. From volitional formations as requisite condition come consciousness. Vijnana pachya nam rupam. From consciousness as a requisite condition come mind and matter. Nama refers to the mind, Rupa refers to the body. Nama is a collective term for various functionalities of the mind. Then we have Nama Rupa Pachaya Salayatan. From mind and matter as a requisite condition come the six sense bases. And then we have the portion which you already discussed. Salayatan Pachaya Phassa, Phassa Pachaya Vedana, Vidya Pachaya Tanha. Then Tanha Pachaya Upadan, Upadan Pachaya Bhava. This much we have discussed. And then further on, Bhava Pachaya Jati. So if I were to repeat starting from here, based on Vedana Pachaya Tanha, from feeling, if ignorance is present, it gives rise to Tanha. So if the bodily sensation is a pleasant feeling, we want to stick to it and enjoy it. If it is painful, we want to remove it. So we do something to remove that feeling. That's the Tanha. Not liking it, and reacting in accordingly. Now, if this Tanha gets strengthened, then it becomes what's called Upadana, it becomes clinging. Tanha is the instantaneous reaction due to ignorance. But that instantaneous reaction can be fortified by our lack of understanding. And therefore, it becomes clinging. We start clinging to that experience. And then it gives rise to transformation. It results in certain actions, becoming. And those actions result in being born as a new person. We are born as an angry person, born as a depressed person, born as a hyper excited person, and so on. This is how the whole sequence of strong emotional upsurges arises. And then, whatever condition it be, nothing is permanent. So, Jati Pachya, Jara, Marana, Soka, Parade. So, birth as a requisite condition come, aging and death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, distress, and despair. Evametas Kevalasya Dukkhandasya Samadaya Oti. This is the origin of the entire mass of suffering. So the whole process has been explained in these 12 links. Some of which we have already discussed, but I think it should be easy to understand. This is the way we show them in a diagram. Okay. We have the starting, you can say start from here, but it's a circular argument, so you can start anywhere. But usually you start from here, assuming that there is ignorance. Now you must say we are all wise people, we are not ignorant. Now this ignorance means ignorance about the nature of reality. It doesn't mean ignorance about the teaching that I don't know. I know Four Noble Truths, so I know I'm not ignorant. It doesn't mean that. It means ignorance about understanding that and practicing it accordingly. So we'll see in detail what does it mean. And then the cycle goes, so we've shown it in different colors, Vidya, Sankhara, Vijnana. Now, in the standard, this whole cycle is explained in two different manners. One is the standard explanation, which is a three life paradigm. So this avidya, sankhara, and vijnana are seen to be the arising due to avidya and sankhara are from past life, and vijnana is the transition to the new life. New consciousness is born, and then that gives rise to new body, six senses, and contact and feeling. And then from feeling is the another, this is the kind of, you can say, the effect. These are the past causes. This is the present effect. And from that present effect come these present causes. From tanha, we create Vedana, because of ignorance, we create tanha. When it goes on and on and on, little will lead to suffering. And by unwise response to suffering, our ignorance further increases, and that cycle keeps on going. So this is the typical cycle of suffering, increasing suffering continuously. So let's see what are these each terms more clearly. What is avidya? Avidya in Sanskrit transformation is avidya. not knowing things. So if it's English, it's translated as ignorance. And basically, what does it mean? Not understanding the nature of reality, nature of our experiences, nature of the world around us. For example, not understanding that all experiences are impermanent, unsatisfactory, and impersonal. These are the basically those three characteristics which we keep on talking about. So, not knowing them, meaning not having imbibed them, not having really uh, starting living according to this understanding, and therefore we suffer. Something happens which is unpleasant, and we cry, not knowing that things are like that. A person dies, a beloved dies, and we cry. We know, of course, that everybody who's born is bound to die, but we know it only in hindsight. It doesn't become a part of our mind's understanding. You're not able to hear?
We can hear, sir. We can hear, sir.
And then Avidya is also explained as not knowing the Four Noble Truths. That's what I've written. Not knowing Four Noble Truths. What are the Four Noble Truths? Means not knowing what is the true cause of suffering and believing that suffering is caused by the external circumstances. That's the fundamental ignorance. And then regarding nature of reality, for example, thinking that we are each of which are separate individual persons and we have a personality, we have a self, and that is seen as ignorance, a very fundamental ignorance, which actually is the main cause of suffering. Because we have in sense of individuality and we think we are all individual, unique persons, while there is no fixed person found here. So that is the nature of avidya or ignorance. And second, as a result of this ignorance arises sankharas, volitional formations. Because we see the world in a me and you. I and these are me and these are mine and these are you and yours. We create a dichotomy and therefore the fear, the acquisitiveness, the apprehensions, ill will, all these arise from that distinction. Taking each person to be individually separate, individual differentiated entity, that's bound to be arising of craving and aversion. And that volitional formations are essentially in terms of mental, vocal, and bodily. Mental would be in terms of craving, aversion, greed, hatred, and all. Vocal will be in terms of speech. You speak harshly or you speak lovingly. So your bodily will be in terms of you like somebody very much and you go and hug him or her, or you don't like somebody, you slap him, slap her. That's a bodily manifestation of the volitional formations. The very, in a gross sense, I'm describing them, not in a strict canonical terms. Then we have these volitional formations clearly can be wholesome, unwholesome, or neutral. And these volitional formations can be also be seen with respect to each sense door. So we'll see it later. Then we come to the consciousness. What does it mean from Sankhara arises consciousness? It means when the standard model it is said, these are the things which are happening in our life and we are born because of Sankhara. That sixth sense consciousness and also a relinking consciousnness, what's called Patisandhi. Relinking means from one life to another life. So that's the place where how we understand the process of rebirth. That in very simple colloquial language, you can say that even when we are living now, what is it that is forcing us to do some things? It is some desires, some cravings, or some aversion, some fears, which motivate us to do some action. If we don't have any craving, don't have any fears, we'll be in peace. We'll not do any action, we'll not do any volitional action. Then volition or actions may arise out of purity of mind. And purity of mind reflects in the form of goodwill, compassion. So then actions are motivated, for example, by compassion rather than by greed or hatred. You get it? So the presence of sankharas, whether wholesome or unwholesome, will always result in next life, as is happening even now. From moment to moment, sankharas arise and they produce certain effect. Some volition rises and we do something. Then some volition rises, we do something. And that's how the consciousness keeps on holding on to different objects. So when you say a person is fully enlightened, what does it mean? That there is no sankhara left. There's no individual personal liking, disliking, personal wanting. There's no wanting at all. And if there's no wanting, there's nothing he needs to do. There's no sense of lack. So sankharas indicate a sense of lack, which is always there as long as avidya is there. As long as ignorance is there, there will always be misunderstanding of the nature of reality and wanting something for future. So even in this life, we see every moment, whenever there's a volition arises, a thought, and then we do something, then we do something. The consciousness goes on and moves towards something else. The same thing happens at the time of death. Whatever thought process happens at the time of death, whatever kind of sankhara, volition, formation arises, that needs to be fulfilled. That wants some action. That needs fulfillment. But this body is no longer suitable for any action because the body is getting dissipated. So the body drops, the life force is no longer available in the body, and the consciousness moves on to the next body. That's how it is explained. So sankhara results in vijnana. Normally it results in sixth sense consciousness, but at the time of death it results in re-linking consciousness. It links the next body to this body. And that next, what will be the next body, the nature of the next body will all depend on what is the sankhara which has arisen at the time of death.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Sir, so as you said that when we say that a person is enlightened, there are no sankharas left. So would it be said that there are no sankharas left, or all the sankharas are wholesome?
No. Actually, there's even the wholesome sankharas are not there. Because wholesome sankharas will also lead to rebirth. They will lead to happy rebirth. Unwholesome will lead to unhappy rebirth. Because sankhara means I still have some wanting to do. I want to benefit the universe. I want to do something great for the world. I want to be serve the people. There's a volition arising from me as a sense of I. There's the difference. Volitions arising from sense of I and volitions arising from pure chitta. There's no craving, no aversion, but compassion is there in the pure chitta, and that motivates person. Okay, let's do this, let's do that, let's do this. Or goodwill from people. So there, for a fully enlightened person, therefore, as long as after enlightenment, they're only functional chitta. It only functions in the world. There's nothing that he needs. For all of us, we need something. We want something. He doesn't want anything. He doesn't need anything. He's just doing things as according to the laws of nature. There is suffering outside, So compassion is arising and he does something to relieve the suffering to extent he or she can. Okay, anything else?
Sir, in the last class, when you were talking about, um, I think we were talking about past lives or something, and you said कि Buddha says that there is no, oh, when did we start? It's always just becoming. Can you explain that becoming in this context is, so we're saying that when it's becoming, ये बस चलता जा रहा है, ये circle है जो चलता जा रहा है.
Yeah, because of ignorance. As long as ignorance is there, sankharas will be there and they give rise to next vijnana. And that will give rise to body and we are becoming something else. We are becoming something else. Here there is a kind of quantum becoming. One body has dropped and you've taken up another body. The stream of consciousness finds bodies. It's like that. Stream of consciousness finds bodies to manifest the sankharas. So it is manifesting certain sankharas in this body. When this body is no longer able to hold that stream because its life force has ended, then it finds another body. And that body it will find in accordance with the nature of sankharas. And so, if the sankharas is wholesome, it will find a body where the appropriately wholesome experiences take place. If they are unwholesome, it will find a body where appropriate in unwholesome experiences take place. And that's how we have people, the concept of hell, concept of heaven, various kinds of realms of existence, and so on. So we can see it, the process actually in our day-to-day life. And every time, whenever there is a volition arising, something we do, thought, speech, or action, anything. That volition is arising because I have a feeling I must do something, I have to do something. That fundamental ignorance of sense of I is always there. And therefore, we may keep on increasing wholesome sankharas and do everything nice. So unwholesome is dissipated and we'll have better and better words. But a time will arise when we become so wise that the sense of I is completely drops. If the sense of I is completely dropped, then we don't do any actions. Action just happens because of circumstances, because of the wisdom, because of mindfulness. Actions are happening just because of these factors which are present in ample measure. Mindfulness and wisdom are present in ample measure in an enlightened being. So all his actions are done, motivated by them, not by any personal desires or sense of lack. Okay, does it make
Yeah,
sense?
yeah, yeah. And I think then we were discussing that in order to go from avidya to vidya, uh, the other cycle that we were talking about, wise action, um, right. So we continue working on that then.
Yeah, the Eightfold Path is meant for that purpose. Vidya is in a way wrong view. Samadhi is right view. So we instead of avidya can also be defined as wrong view. So we correct our views. You remember Samadhi was knowing the Four Noble Truths. And not knowing Four Noble Truths is therefore wrong. It will result in a wrong view. What will it be wrong view? The most obvious manifestation of wrong view will be this man is the cause of my suffering. This woman, or whatever, this situation, this person, this country, this politics, this weather, anything. You can always find somebody blameworthy for my suffering, which is a manifestation of the wrong view. Because, as the first assignment said, there are only situations in life, not suffering. Suffering problems are created by us. There's an unpleasant situation. So now weather is changing. Sometimes it becomes hot, sometimes it becomes cold, and old bodies like mine, they keep on getting worked up. But if I make a suffering out of it, then I can make a suffering. See, weather is terrible. What can I do? Sometimes I have to put on blanket. Sometimes I put on shawl. Sometimes if I put too much clothes and go out, then I start perspiring, damaged, and then I can keep on complaining and cribbing and creating unwholesome sankharas more and more and more. Or I can see, okay, that's the way it is. It's hot, so let me remove the warm clothing. If it is cold, let me put them on. Simple functionality. It's a very simple example I'm giving. So that's how we form sankharas because of ignorance. And they will give rise to newer and newer consciousness. Every moment, newer consciousness is arising. And what does it do further? It conditions the body mind, conditions Nama Rupa. Nam Rupa means body and mind. Rupa is we know what, and Nam is defined in terms of various important mental functions. 5 mental functions. What's Mansikara is attention, Chetana is the volition or intention, Rasa, already contacts, and Vedana is feeling, Sanya is perception. I hope you remember. Mansikara, we didn't talk, it is the attention. We give attention to something. Then only sense contact will take place. If I don't give attention, I'm studying my book and my mother is calling, I don't give attention, no hearing happens. Sounds does come into the ear, but it doesn't get registered because attention is not there. And Chaitanya is a mental factor which has a dual role. It is actually the coordinating factor because firstly the intention has to be there and then attention will go. If I am studying and somebody calls me and I have no intention of getting disturbed, then there's no intention, there's no attention, no phasa, no vedana, no sanya with respect to that. But if I am studying and suddenly I hear a very beautiful song which I like, my all attention goes there. Forget about staying up, baad mein pad lenge, chalo. Let's listen to that song or go and see the film or whatever. So you can see how the mind functions. So they are the mental factors which determine the texture of the mind. Vijnana is the governing factor, right? Consciousness. And these are kind of adjuncts of consciousness. And we know the nature of vijnana which will arise will depend on sankhara, and associated with that will be the impact on mind and body. So if the sankhara, if we take the paradigm of the rebirth, then if the sankhara at the time of rebirth is extremely unwholesome, it give rise to unwholesome birth, unwholesome vijnana with unwholesome mental factors. It could lead to birth in an animal region or in a lower realm or in a human realm where there is enormous suffering experienced. And that will really cause the change in the mind and body accordingly. So it is said that a person who is extremely cruel and extremely angry all the time, it's very likely that it will affect his bodily form. When we get angry, what happens? It affects our body, isn't it? The face becomes red and we start trembling and we start the changes in the body are evident to anybody outside. Even if you're not speaking anything and you get angry, the people around you would know that you are angry. And if you are attracted towards somebody, you don't have to say anything. Your face will show it. Yeah, I'm attracted. She's getting attracted towards me. They'll know. Why? Because if bodily features start changing, the tone of the voice will change. The facial features will change because of the strong emotion which is a result, say love or lust or whatever, or greed. It will change. So that's what is meant by Vijnana Pachaya Nam Rupam. Depending on the nature of consciousness, the body mind get influenced. Are you able to get it? Is it within your experience?
Yes, sir.
Then the 6 sense bases are prompted. Depending on the nature of mind, 6 sense bases get prompted to do something. And then there will be contact, and there will be feeling. And again, from feeling, the cycle will start. Because if the ignorance persists, we'll do something other. And then we'll hold on to that. If the tanha arises, still it is manageable. If you can become aware at that time, oh, anger is about to arise, we can manage it. But if the anger arises and we grab hold of it, now this person deserves to be shown his place. So I've caught hold of the anger, I've clung to it. And then appropriate becoming and warmth and all of this, the whole cycle will continue further. So the scriptures define 4 kinds of clinging. One is calm. Calm upadana means clinging to sense pleasures. Ditthi upadana means clinging to views. They may be, ideologies. The liberal people these days are the most illiberal. They have a certain view. So if somebody has a different view than them, they'll become angry. You're not liberal. Not realizing that their being angry at others' view is the height of illiberality. So that is called Ditthi Upadana. You are not able to see. Your views are so capturing you that you're not able to see what you're doing. Then Shilabhata Upadana. That's a tricky term. Shilabhata means Shil or Vrat ke prati asakti, clinging to certain observances. कि यही observances मुझे मुक्त करा देंगे. These observances will lead to freedom. If I am speaking truth, I'll automatically be liberated. No. Speaking truth, non-violence, they're good. But that's not enough to make you liberated. And then people claim, I am observing more of truthfulness than you are observing. I am more non-violent than you are. So it has become a clinging, and then it leads to suffering. And Attavad Upadan, the most crucial and the most subtle, the clinging to sense of self. I am there.
Then
I am, whatever your name is, speak about that. I am this. And that person, it's not just a matter of speaking, that inner feeling that I am, of course, that. I am, of course, there. And that's obviously the subtlest clinging which all of us suffer from till we become really enlightened. Yes, anything? You're speaking, or your neighboring room is speaking?
neighboring room, the hallway, in fact.
Will not close the door?
The door is closed, but still the voice kind of gets through. There are no fans running now.
Okay. Then from Upadana, we have the familiar Bhava. Again, Bhava is usually talked of in 3. This is with respect to the, here also is another possibility of interpreting this as future life. This is happening in present life, and from Upadana becomes Bhava, and becoming, and then it gives rise to future life. And future life could be in any of the 3 realms. The sensory realm, where sense pleasures are there, the realm where fine material realm, and the immaterial realm. So you can forget, the higher planes of existence also. So in the 3 life paradigm, this is seen as the present life, and this is seen as the future life. Future life will be rebirth, which means arising of the khandhas, or appearance or arising of things. And there in that life also, After rebirth, ultimately aging and death will take place. And because ignorance continues, there will be suffering. And once we suffer, once we cry and lament, that only increases our ignorance further. Because we are lamenting, oh, my friend has died, my ex has died, or present one has died, or whatever. And the crying and suffering and grief arising from there is only strengthening our ignorance. Because we take that person as a person. We are having attavadam. We are having a belief in a personality view. And therefore that increases the vidya and the cycle continues to become more and more intense. You remember the spiral? The spiral can go in one direction or the other direction. This is another diagram which is used to indicate the wheel of becoming or suffering. We have the ignorance, and this is, you can see, I've written down past cause up to this place. What is the past cause? Ignorance and sankharas. And they give rise to the consciousness, body and mind, sense bases, contact, feeling. This is the present result. Because of these past causes, this present result happens. And this is automatic. Once consciousness is arisen, all this will happen naturally. You can't do anything about it. Now, from feeling to craving is something which we do again. That is our doing. Ignorance working and converting feeling into craving. If we can be wise, we'll just observe feeling. Okay, it's a feeling after all. It's an unpleasant feeling. Let me observe it. And it will pass away in due course. Then craving will not arise. And that's what we are training for. When we do meditation, we are training for bodily feelings. That when bodily feelings arise, we don't react and create craving. Do you understand? This is what we are practicing when we said scan the body. समझ आ रहा है बेटा?
Yes, sir.
So you can relate the practice to this. Okay. Then this is the present cause, because the craving becomes the cause for producing result in future. Clinging, becoming, and then there is birth, aging, death. This is the future result. And when there is death and there is lamentation, grief, despair, and sorrow, this all adds to the ignorance, and the cycle becomes stronger and stronger and stronger. So this is the micro explanation of the second noble truth, how the suffering arises. Any questions on that? Now you can ask. Whatever we have done till now, if you have any questions, please ask so that it become clear. Because this is one of the most fundamental teachings of the Buddha, which distinguishes him teaching from rest of the teachings, rest of the spiritual teaching. Of course, as far as Shil is concerned, Samadhi is concerned, it is found abundantly in the Indian spiritual traditions, which predated Buddha. In the Vedas and Upanishads, you find all that mention of indirectly or indirectly, you find that mention. Not very directly, that directly happened only in Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, which are post-Buddhist. So any question about this?
तो सर अगर अगर हम किसी एक एग्जांपल से जैसे अब इफ यू गो टू द उपादाना वाला स्लाइड once
Let's take one thing. Okay, let's take an example. I think that's a good thing. You're suggesting. Let
so
me create a scene for you and let me see whether you can analyze. Okay? All of you listen. Say you're going to your college. Of course, you're not working. So if Ashika is going to her office, or somebody is going to his office, or you're going to your college, you're coming, and you find somebody coming, and you say hello, or you see your teacher, for example, and you say him, "Hello, good morning, sir," and he just ignores you and walks past. Okay, that's a scene created for you. Now you tell me what will happen. How will your mind respond? Come on, start off and
This
see.
example is mentioned in your book.
Yeah, okay. So
Yes, sir.
if you read it, then explain it. Doesn't matter.
So
Because
the
that is not the only way we things can go. We can go in so many ways.
yes, sir, but
Just written one.
yes, as far as I remember from that, so
No,
after
don't remember now.
so
Don't
after
remember. You
yes,
can
sir.
you can assume that you are just going, and somebody is some of your teacher with whom you have a very good relationship. Hopefully, you're just walking past him, and you say good morning, sir, and he just ignores you and walks out.
Yes.
So, what will be the impact of this sense contact? Let me put it now in objective terms. Okay, is a sense contact. You see a person and you say something, no response.
um, the sense base operating here could be mind. Now that example is coloring my
Okay, it's fine. It doesn't matter.
yes, so the sense base of mind is coming in contact with thoughts such as why did that person did not respond to my greeting? Was he in such a hurry? Or did I do something wrong? Something like that. And then through that contact, a feeling may arise with that contact as a condition, and that feeling would be, if it is an unpleasant one, then uh, like for me personally, in such cases it doesn't go beyond that, because in my mind the thoughts that come, they are very rapidly, they go to okay, that person must have not seen, must be in a hurry, must be really running off to do something. But if we follow the another trajectory, that some unpleasant feeling arises, then out of, as we discussed, there would arise a tanha, which could be of a kind, how to sort of get rid of this feeling, how to get rid of this unpleasantness that has arisen. So and if one tends to cling to that tanha, then one could sort of devise plans, as of next time I see him, I'll also not respond even if he greets me. Next time he asks me for a favor, I'll not sort of reciprocate well because he was rude to me. So that is the kind of becoming could be understood here as I'm kind of becoming a person who's sort of revengeful and vengeful like that. And then that could be a birth of a person who's very sort of not friendly, who's kind of a tit for tat kind of personality, who believes in that kind of things, something like that.
And then what would be aging and death?
Then aging and death. um I don't, there would be a lot of, because a lot of mental energy goes into really thinking like that. If you go on thinking into cycles of that, okay, why was there something wrong with me, did I do something wrong? So of course it has arisen some sort of pain and sort of despair in you, and those vengeful feelings that you've also started to inculcate would end up taking you to a sorrowful kind of a feeling. So you'll become a very skeptic person also, and a very sort of a person who thinks negatively, probably a person who views things in negative light.
What does this mean, aging and death, with respect to that? Of course, what we are discussing is that this whole thing can be viewed we're talking first in terms of three life paradigm. Okay, then we can also view this whole thing happening in one mind moment, one incident in the present moment. That way also. So what you are describing is looking at the whole thing in the present moment.
Yes,
so that's
sir.
seen properly. Okay? So
Yes.
So if there is ignorance, in fact,
Ignorance.
there's no need to say about if, because all of us have ignorance. You don't mind telling me that I'm MA student and you're telling me I'm ignorant. You don't mind that. We all have that fundamental ignorance of self-view. I am, and of course, we have our own stock of cravings and aversions, part of our latent tendencies, which we carry along. So therefore, whenever we have those kind of things, there will be a volitional impulse. Whenever anything happens, there is a volitional impulse. And that will give rise to a certain consciousness. It will be unwholesome. In this particular case, an unwholesome consciousness arises. Now, if you can see, if a person is living the whole of his life like that, and then at his death also, the thoughts which will arise will be of the same ignorant kind. If a person has harmed somebody, or if a person has cheated somebody, or a person has strong aversion to some person, then that will come to the surface at that moment. Because the most dominant sankhara, the most dominant habit patterns come to the fore and faculties start to wither away. So you'll see, old people sometimes can be extremely bitter. If they have had a very painful life, they'll be extremely bitter towards the end of their life. Because they remember, oh, this person did grave injustice to me. And that grave injustice will continue to bother them continuously. So the thought processes, the volition is also mental. Whenever that thought will come, this person did injustice to me, he cheated me, or whatever, or he betrayed me, betrayed my love, and that's one of the romantic love. Getting betrayed is a terrible sankhara, because it creates so much of bitterness, and that bitterness will persist if wisdom doesn't arise. Bitterness will persist for all the life. Or you lose somebody who's very dear to you because of some accident or something else, and this person is responsible, and that shapes your life totally. Imagine if your family losing the bread-winning young son because of some fight or this, and then the mother would be constantly worried and crazed and critical of the person who did that. And so that becomes a constant thought, and volitional impulses will arise even at the time of death. Oh my God, had my son been alive, he would have taken care of me. And that is such a strong, sadness which arises at that time, that will give rise to birth in accordance with that sankhara. So the consciousness will get modulated by that. And that consciousness will find a new life in a body of that kind, where if the tendency is to take revenge, you'll be born in that situation so that you can take revenge with that person. Or if you're getting excessively depressed, you'll be born with a situation where the negativity of the mind occurs. The rebirth cases which have been carefully examined by Stevenson, and set up a proper institute in Virginia Institute in the university in US. They had telltale marks of past life in some of the cases. A young boy, is constantly asking his parents, "You get me an aeroplane, and I want to be a pilot." Small boy, and all the kinds of knowledge about aeroplanes, which nobody has. Nobody has taught him that. It's all carried from the past life. Because he was a fighter pilot. Later was done, he was a fighter pilot in the Second World War, and he was shot down and he died there at a young age. And when he's reborn, all that strong memories of war and getting killed in that action and the knowledge of that, it somehow gets transferred in the consciousness. And it shapes his body and mind accordingly. His sense basis, his contract, everything becomes of that kind. He seeks the fulfillment of what he could not fulfill in the past life. So you can see how this cycle is explained in a very beautiful manner. And from feelings, now what you do with them here, if we continue to have the same ignorance, then cycle will continue moving. But what happens is that because of this suffering, a person can be so much overwhelmed, he will ask, "Yaar, koi hai? Is there any way out of it? I'm suffering so much." Some element of some wholesome karma is there which forces him to think, or even the suffering can force one to think. Is there some way out? And he tries to seek and find, and then slowly and slowly the ignorance gets dispelled. And the cycle will move in opposite direction. In the sense that instead of ignorance, you can say the reverse cycle will start. Cessation of ignorance will give rise. This is arising of ignorance giving rise to this. Then cessation of ignorance will also drive this cessation of this, cessation of this. Everything will keep on ending till eventually birth ends. No more rebirth. Which is, of course, when complete cessation of ignorance is taken place. But even if small ignorance falls, then the intensity of these things keeps on falling down. So we go in the opposite direction. So you can easily see from this, derive yourself from there, what will be the opposite diagram. Instead of, say, avidya pachya sankhara, you'll say, avidya nirodho sankhara nirodha. If the avidya ends, sankhara will also end. If the avidya does not arise, sankhara will not arise. If sankharas don't arise, consciousness will not arise, and so on. If in this very life, if I'm practicing well and when working well, the ignorance is completely dispelled, volitional impulses do not arise, then at the time of death, there is no volitional impulse, there is no desire to be something, become something, do something, then the consciousness will not arise. Matter ends, no more birth. You are freed, liberated. So that's how the explanation is given in the Buddha's teachings. Yeah.
One question. So regarding rebirth, right now, like we are taking an example for like a common person, but like rebirth isn't it like much complex than that? Because like there are people who are born as handicapped and there are people who are born as gifted. So like how do we put this diversity of people in this model? Like
Buddha's teachings, it's all explained with respect to the sankharas. It's all explained with respect to that. So it may not be very palatable to the modern socialistic setup, but that's the way it is explained. And there are suttas that explain the person who has done a murder in one life. In the next life, he may be either born in the lower realm, or if he is born as a human realm, and that action is ripening. If that action of his is about to ripen, then in the next life he'll have a short life. It's explicitly stated in these discourses. A person who is very cruel, very angry all the time, when that sankhara is also karma, when that karma ripens, he'll be born as an ugly form. its face will be ugly. Similarly, the various sense bases here it's written consciousness, conditions, body and mind, these conditions, sense bases. So they're all getting conditioned from here. So whether all the 6 sense bases are properly created or not is also related to this. So in a materialistic paradigm, this will not be understood. This can't be explained. Materialistically, they'll say, well, the mother did this, the genetic problem, this problem, that problem. But the question is, why should that person be born in that situation? There's no explanation for that. So in the Buddha's teaching, you find this explanation. And this, of course, in a modern so-called liberal society where we think everybody should be equal in our own view, this is not easy to digest. I know that.
Then, sir, isn't it like putting blame on that person if they are born that way?
Yeah.
So how do you
It is a harsh fact of real nature. Do you blame a poisonous datura seed for being bitter? Do you appreciate a mango seed for producing sweet mangoes? That's the law of nature. It's not a question of blame. It's not a question of anybody there who's blaming anybody. When you get angry and you suffer, whom do you blame?
oneself only?
No, you can blame other person, of course. He created anger in me, and therefore I am falling ill because of that person. I'm having headache because of him. Yeah, that's the apparent truth, not the ultimate truth. That's the difference between apparent and ultimate reality.
Sir, one more question. Like now that we know that whatever we are born as right now, it's because of the sankharas of the past life. So if I see a person who is handicapped, or if I see a person who is depressed or anxious, so how do I bring that compassion within me?
Yeah, if you have a pure mind, if you have a pure mind, then one is moved by compassion in spite of ignorance. No, it's not that we are always engulfed in ignorance. Of course, the sense of I is always there. That doesn't go easily. But the craving and aversions do subside. They arise and pass away. You're not always craving, isn't it? You're not always averse. That background remains, that latent tendency remains, but there has to be a trigger to create that into the manifest world, isn't it? We all have that tendency of getting angry when unpleasant feelings, unpleasant situations arise. So there has to be an external trigger to create the response of anger. Similarly, there can be an external trigger to create a response of compassion. Now it's a question of practice. What are you practicing more, compassion or anger? What are you practicing more, goodwill or ill will? There's that famous story of a Native American old man talking to his grandson and telling, it seems to me there are two dogs within me fighting for each other. One dog says, take revenge. Other says, no, be kind. And they're fighting constantly. So the grandson asks, who's going to win? He says, the one whom I will feed. There's a big message in it. What am I feeding? If I am feeding craving, greed, lust, then I'll become that. That will strengthen. And this dynamics of karma is not determinate. It's not deterministic. It's not fatalistic. You can change it. If I have done unwholesome karma and they have to fructify in producing unwholesome result, but my mind state now is purified and it's always wholesome, that unwholesome karma, whenever it fructifies, it won't find a proper ground for the fructification. It's like a seed. The seed doesn't find a ground suitable for its flowering. So the effect will be very small. So you can change your impact of the karma. That is the beauty of the present result, present cause. This is within our hands. Even though we have a sense of self, then we are wise, we understand, then we say, okay, feeling is arising. This is unpleasant feeling is the result of my past karma. Let me face it. Let me not run away from it. And I know for sure it is unpleasant, it is temporary. Let me face it, face the unpleasant feeling, face it, be aware of it bodily, mentally, and see it pass away, pass away, pass away. Then I am clearing the way. I am clearing the debris from my mind. The ignorance will slowly and slowly wear off. So that is the hopeful message of this, that you can change your destiny. You may be born in a hopeless situation. And you have heard so many stories of people born in a hopeless situation. By their own effort, they became what they were. They put, did effort, they did put energy, they put all the fortune of coming in contact with good people who could help them, advise them properly. So there is a way out. It's not that we are trapped in it for it. As long as we are ignorant, we are trapped. But the moment we arise wisdom, whether here or here or here or here, you can stop. You can slow down the wheel. The turning of the wheel of suffering can be slowed down and eventually stopped. Okay, does it make sense?
Yes, sir.
Think about it. Okay, so what's the time? Yeah, I think we should stop now. So think about it. We'll continue with another lecture. This Monday, I may not be able to come because I have to go for our trust work. So I'll inform Suneet accordingly. Most probably I'll not be able to come, but there is some uncertainty as usual about it. I have to go outside Delhi, then I'll let you know.
Okay, sir.
Sit and meditate for a few minutes. Then observe the breath for a minute or observe the whole body, whichever is more convenient for you. But observing breath always is helpful, even if for a minute. 1 minute breath, then shift attention to the body, be aware of it, and then I'll chant goodwill, metta bhavana, practice of goodwill for all, for ourselves and for all. So these are the practices which reduce our aversion, reduce anger, reduce the ill will. If you keep on chanting it again and again, may all beings be happy, it'll become difficult for you to work towards their harming them. You see, that's what we see, that's what we develop. When we develop wholesome qualities, unwholesome qualities get a lesser chance to manifest. That's the training. Sakito I'll be happy. Niddukkhomi. May I be free from suffering. Averomi. Free from animosity. Avyapanjomi. Free from ill will. Anigomi. Free from anxiety. Sukhiyattanang pariharami. May I be able to take care of myself happily. Sambe satta sukhita hontu. May all beings be happy. Sambe satta avera hontu. May all beings be free from animosity. Sambe satta avyapanja hontu. May all beings be free from ill will. Sambe satta aniga hontu. May all beings be free from anxiety. Sambe satta sukhi attanang pariharantu. May all beings be able to take care of themselves happily. Good, so you can stop. You can repeat this practice also at home. If you have a certain person, specific person with whom you have animosity, you can remember him or her, or you feel he has animosity towards you. You can bring his or her photograph visually in your mind's eye and send him good wishes. May you be happy, may you be peaceful, may you be free from anger, free from ill will. This will calm down your mind, reduce the anger. And if it is done with pure heart, the other person can also get influenced. A very simple and very powerful practices coupled with meditation. These practices have very good impact in our day-to-day life, in changing our mind, shaping our mind, overcoming ignorance in a very simple way. At least not eliminating it, but at least overwhelming it by positivity. For eliminating it, uprooting it, you have to then, of course, practice seeds arising and passing away, arising and passing away. Okay, so try to spend